If you want to have a great crypto tax return that fixes the problems of your past returns and does them right so that the IRS won't be coming after you, then you've come to the right person. If you're having difficulty sleeping at night, you're distressed about what's going to happen, you're afraid you might get an IRS letter, then let me put your worries at ease. If you're concerned that the stakes are too high and that you don't trust your own ability to do a amended return on your own, you've come to the right source. You're obviously watching this video because you're interested in what my firm and I can do for you in terms of providing a full service crypto tax return. And I just want to set your expectations on that. Hey, you know, doing a great crypto tax return is not trivial. It's come out of years of experience and experience from the tax problem resolution side that help inform and educate how to do that tax return. You know, if you're looking for a low-cost solution for your tax problem, this is probably not the answer for you. You probably should consider the do-it-yourself approach that I also offer through some books. Now, and those books are awesome, and I've tried to encapsulate the wisdom that I've brought to my tax preparation business for crypto traders. But there's always a little something different. You know, there's one thing about having a surgeon who's been trained in and experienced and watched others and done it himself do a heart surgery. And it's another thing to have someone to do it yourself by reading some books. There's just a lot of difference in experience that comes down to making all the difference whether or not, in this case, you get audited and examined or not. I wrote a book called Why Crypto Traders Are Low-Hanging Fruit. And I particularly love the cover illustration. It shows someone, actually an IRS employee, stick figure, picking apples off a tree. And he's going for the low fruit because they're the easiest to pick. And most crypto traders, as this book will explain, are low-hanging fruit. They're easy to capture, they're easy to catch, they're easy to squeeze money out of. My strategies for a great crypto tax return and tax amnesty take you from being the low-hanging fruit on that tree to being either, to the top of the tree, the top-hanging fruit. The fruit at the top of a tree requires the most effort for a picker to go after. He needs a taller ladder. He has to lean into it more. He has to really work at it. And why would he do that when there's so much other low-hanging fruit? In the vineyard of bad tax returns that the IRS gets from crypto traders, there's so much low-hanging fruit. They don't need a ladder to make a fortune. But I am the ladder. I get you up to the top so that you can feel free to, well, you can sleep well at night and you know things are going to be all right and that you can move on with your life and have some financial stability. So, hey, look, doing that is not an easy task. I use very expensive tax software. I spent in the neighborhood of about $19,000 this year on my tax software. Now, you can go over and get a copy of TurboTax for $60. Well, what's the difference between $19,000 and $60? Well, the difference is whether or not you get examined or investigated by the IRS. And the types of things that I do in a tax return can't be done with TurboTax. Well, they can be done, but you have to do it manually by supplementing the forms from the IRS and filling them out manually and doing the whole manual submission. Not trivial. So also what I do with the tax return also involves creating legal affidavits, and it comes from having experience. I've done over 850 tax amnesty returns. I've spoken to 900 crypto traders about their tax situations, and this all comes into the process I have in place with my company. And if you find someone who says, they can do the same thing I can, step back. Hey, you're a CPA. What training do you have in preparing a legal affidavit? I have a law degree, and I have experience doing this. If the CPA is claiming he can do that, you should run. They're not trained, they're not certified, and their professional liability insurance doesn't protect them or you. If they claim that they have filed tax amnesty returns, ask them how many. If they claim they've done crypto tax returns, ask them how many. If they can claim that they can do like-kind exchange calculations, ask them how many times they've done it. Ask them how many transactions they did like-kind exchange on. My largest client was 120,000 transactions. My team actually had to go back and rewrite the entire application that we have to support the parallel processing involved in analyzing that much data. In calculating like-kind exchange is actually there's a lot of manual effort involved, even though we use a complicated application to make it work. It's very complicated and time-consuming. Now, let's talk about what you get when you have a full-service return done by my team and I. First of all, it begins with an initial consultation with me. In this typically 15 to 30-minute phone call, we'll discuss your unique story, what custom things we have to address in your returns, and I'll give you a quotation for how much it's going to take to do all the work that you would need to get to the position where you are the high-hanging fruit and you can sleep well at night. Then, if you continue to go forward with us, I issue a letter to the IRS notifying them that you're doing a tax amnesty program and asking for them to stay any examinations or enforcement actions for a period of a few months while we complete this process. This is a tremendous tool, especially if you've received one of the inquiry letters from the IRS about your crypto reporting, letter 6174, 6173, 6174A. This is a powerful tool to create a window of breathing room so we can get your return done right without being afraid of the IRS continuing to crack down. Now, the third thing, we will prepare your tax return or amended return. We will use an online file storage system that keeps your data in an encrypted format. It transmits it in an encrypted format that exceeds the IRS data protection standards. It meets and exceeds bank encryption and protection standards, even HIPAA standards. It meets all these. So your data is safe with me. We also have a team kickoff. Once you've gathered your exchange in records, APIs, and provide us with your other documentation, and we then have a kickoff meeting with my entire team, and we will talk with you about your situation. In particular, we'll focus on one of our two crypto capital gains gurus. We'll go through your files, make sure we've captured the right transaction records, and then on an ongoing process, as we look at it, if we're missing records, we'll be in touch with you to get more details. If we need to reconcile some problems, we'll do it together. So we try to get to the point where we have as good a baseline of transaction records that we can go ahead and do our capital gains calculations on it, whether it's straight capital gains or capital gains and like-kind exchange. We both do those, and that's the seventh thing that we do really is we do the like-kind exchange calculation. Hey, I'm not really aware of anyone else who's doing this in the market right now. Maybe that'll change in the future. There is a firm that is doing do-it-yourself like-kind exchange, but this becomes very difficult after you have even 100 records. It can become very difficult. We have done this, as I mentioned, for some of the 120,000 records. We have done it dozens and dozens of times. I've already submitted several returns, had them accepted by the IRS. So we do great work. We also will prepare both of your anti-money laundering forms that are necessary with each return. We will make sure we've accounted for all your foreign crypto exchanges as well as counting your transactional record values. We will prepare affidavits for any crypto losses related to financial scams, Ponzi schemes, lost wallets, lost coins, phishing losses, whatever. We can produce legal affidavits to help support the deduction of those losses on your tax return, which is a tremendous tax savings, and it needs to be anchored by a legal affidavit to give you the greatest security on being able to get that deduction. We also will prepare your tax amnesty affidavit, very important, and it's going to make sure that we establish reasonable cause and non-willful conduct in your behavior so that you are entitled to the tax amnesty that's available for waiving the penalties for not filing the anti-money laundering forms on time. And one of the things that's really most exciting about what we do is we will prepare the poison pill disclosure document to include in your tax return. Now, this is the thing that takes you from being the medium hanging fruit to the high hanging fruit on the tree that the IRS is picking. And why is that? I had a former IRS international auditor work for me. He had done this work for 5 years, and when he did work for me, he threw in these disclosure documents. I go, what is this? I asked him. I said, Marcus, what is he talking about? These disclosure documents. And he told me a story which was fascinating, more fascinating than he maybe realized. An international auditor operates on a quota basis. They have to bring in so much tax each month as a part of their job. They don't keep it up, they lose their job. Now, when you're an auditor, you're looking for any shortcuts to help you meet your number. So what they do is when they look at a return and they find a problem, he told me, the first thing they do is jump over to see if one of these disclosure documents was in the tax return. Because if it wasn't, it was an automatic 40% foreign accuracy penalty assessed to the errors that he found. So as the IRS agent, he found the error, he has to figure out how much tax that is, but then he gets this 40% kicker. Now, so obviously that's a motivation for them to go after that return. So by including a disclosure document to explain anything that's at all dubious or not clear, let me put it that way, not clear, then it prevents the agent from being able to claim the 40% kicker. So he's not going to get as much out of the return. Secondly, by having the disclosure document explaining what was done, the burden of proof now moves over to the IRS agent to prove that what was done and disclosed was not correct. Well, that just means extra work to get a lesser return. So it clearly is a demotivator to an IRS agent if there is a disclosure document. So we give you one to address the entire breadth of crypto reporting obligations. Let me tell you another story. I have a friend that came to me, and he had contacted a tax attorney who claimed to be an expert in cryptos, and he wanted to do like-kind exchange. Well, what did this tax attorney do? First of all, he did not do the return. He said, all you need to do is include this letter. And what was surprising, if you heard my earlier videos, a letter doesn't cut it. You have to actually report the like-kind exchange. But this is the gripping part of the story. My client paid that attorney $10,000 for this letter. Even today, I can't figure out how anyone would actually come up with the idea that they would pay $10,000 for a letter. Well, this client had $1 million in gains, so he had something to fear. And then he dealt with a CPA who had no clue on how to handle it, and it all got screwed up, and he came to me to get the whole thing fixed. I include the equivalent of that letter, actually the disclosure document, which is what it was, in your return, and you don't have to pay $10,000. Your tax return, the entire thing with amnesty, will be far less than that. Now, the poison pill is the most exciting thing in the tax return, in my opinion, because of how powerful it is in case you go to that last stage where they're coming after you in an audit. Now, what else? Number 12, your return will be reviewed by a CPA and by myself as an enrolled agent. And then number 13, after you sign your return, we will submit it to the IRS for you. We do this to make sure it gets done correctly. Typically, an amended return or a tax amnesty return cannot be electronically filed. It has to be physically mailed. That's why we do it, make sure it gets done right. And if it's electronically fileable, then we will certainly do that. We will also help you if you need to put in place a payment plan to pay any taxes that might be outstanding if you can't pay for them all right away. And there's lots of different IRS payment options. We're skilled in all of them, and we'll find the right one for you to resolve that tax debt. And then finally, any correspondence from the IRS about your tax return, we will receive a copy, and we'll let you know what that means, and we will handle addressing it. And we only charge on an hourly basis at that point. Don't pre-price that in. But we can handle that and resolve any of those problems all the way up through appeals, through escalation to management, other procedures that are available. Then even if we have to go to tax court, we can represent you all the way up. So we're a full service firm. You get that entire package when you get a tax return prepared by us. Now, if all we did was get you tax amnesty and avoid that $10,000 fine, wouldn't a full service return be of a tremendous value to you? Hey, look, we're including that disclosure document, which one of my friends paid $10,000 for. That ought to be prima facie high value for this return. Plus, if all we did was do like-kind exchange calculation for you, under which you might save a fortune, some of my clients, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Wouldn't that be a fantastic price for you to have us do the full service tax preparation? And if all you did was get that poison pill disclosure and also have the AML files filed, you would be able to sleep well at night knowing that you're safe, that your apple is at the top of the tree, and that would be of incredible value as well. So I think the price we charge is actually very competitive compared to the high-end firms and what they charge. I hear prices that go above $10,000 in tax return preparation. You won't be paying that price with me. You're going to get a great deal. We do all the work in-house. We're not subcontracting out the tax return preparation like law firms do to mitigate their risks. So the first step is to schedule a consultation with me, during which time we'll talk about your situation, give you a quotation. And I have to admit that I do have to charge for this initial consultation. And I wish I didn't, but I have to. And the reason being is there are just so many people that want help. Many of them don't have the money to pay for the help. They have taken advantage of me and my time and squeezed me for all sorts of information. I'm very helpful, but they've not paid me for these works. I've had people call me up very concerned. They had $900 invested in cryptos. They lost $200 and they're distressed about how they report this on their tax return. Well, hey, there's no taxes when you lose money, and they're far too small a person, and they certainly couldn't pay for my services. I've written books to help them, but I need to charge for the appointment because I want to make sure that you get a window of time to talk to me and you get my full and undivided attention. That's why we schedule it in advance. Make sure you check the AM and PM and get the times right when you pick your time. I look forward to talking to you, and I hope to do for you a great crypto tax return and tax amnesty. Have a great day.